Welcome back to our channel, the place where we dive deep into the secrets, scandals, and shocking twists of your favorite daytime dramas. In this chapter of betrayal and downfall, everything revolves around the silent rise of Leslie and the devastating collapse of Anita, a woman once seen as unshakable at the center of her powerful family. It all began when Leslie, once an outsider looking in, inherited the massive trust fund established by Barbara, a woman whose past was tied intimately to Anita and the Dupree circle. Barbara had long been a complicated figure, admired and envied, but her death left behind not only emotional scars but also a considerable fortune. For years, Anita carried the weight of Barbara's absence, building her empire and her family's legacy without ever fully addressing the questions that surrounded Barbara's mysterious passing. That silence created fertile ground for suspicion, and Leslie, newly empowered by her wealth, knew exactly how to exploit it. The sudden shift in fortune transformed Leslie from a woman who had always hovered on the fringes of high society into someone capable of buying her way into the exclusive world of Fairmont Crest. Membership to the gated enclaves and private clubs that had once eluded her was now within reach, and she used her newfound status as both a shield and a weapon. But money alone was not enough. Leslie wanted revenge, power, and control, and she understood that to topple Anita she would need more than material wealth. She needed to poison public perception. Quietly, carefully, Leslie began to whisper a narrative that Anita was not the grieving friend she appeared to be but rather the hidden hand behind Barbara's death. The timing of Barbara's demise, the financial arrangements that followed, and the absence of clear answers provided Leslie with the perfect stage to spin her tale. She planted doubts in the minds of club members, allies, and even Anita's own family, letting insinuations grow unchecked. What began as faint speculation quickly metastasized into a storm of suspicion. In high society, where appearances matter more than truth, the suggestion of guilt often carried more weight than any evidence. Anita, long accustomed to respect and even fear, suddenly found her name circulating in hushed conversations. Social invitations that once came automatically began to dry up. Business partners stalled on projects. Even her closest confidants grew hesitant, unsure whether to defend her or protect themselves from potential scandal. The isolation was subtle at first, but it deepened with each passing day, until Anita could no longer ignore that the walls were closing in. When investigators quietly reopened Barbara's case, it confirmed Anita's worst fears. What had been written off as a closed chapter of the past now returned with brutal force. Detectives questioned her about inconsistencies she had long forgotten, about details buried beneath years of success and distraction. Each line of inquiry carried the heavy implication that Anita herself might be culpable. Her repeated denials, instead of silencing the rumors, seemed to fuel them further. The media caught wind of the whispers, and soon headlines speculated about the dark secret behind the Dupree matriarch. Within the family, the impact was seismic. Danny, who had always looked up to Anita's strength, struggled with the possibility that the woman she admired could be harboring such a dark truth. Chelsea, already reeling from her own traumas, found herself pulled into the scandal, her public image tarnished simply by association. Vernon tried to steady the household, but even he could not ignore the evidence mounting against his wife. The once unshakable foundation of the Dupree legacy trembled as alliances shifted and trust dissolved. Leslie, meanwhile, played the role of the concerned outsider perfectly. She offered sympathy in public, shaking her head at the tragedy of it all, while privately fanning the flames of suspicion. She leaked fragments of information, half-truths, carefully edited stories that painted Anita in the darkest possible light. To those who doubted, she played the voice of reason, insisting she wanted nothing more than the truth. To those who believed, she encouraged outrage, knowing every word pushed Anita closer to ruin. Her ability to manipulate perception made her untouchable, and for every step Anita tried to take in her defense, Leslie was already 3 steps ahead. The legal proceedings escalated with terrifying speed. What began as informal questioning turned into a formal investigation, and soon Anita found herself the subject of a criminal case. Evidence that had been overlooked or dismissed years before resurfaced with new interpretations. Financial transactions between her and Barbara, once seen as the dealings of close friends, were reframed as suspicious motives. Discrepancies in Anita's statements were seized upon as proof of deceit. The prosecution built its case not just on hard facts but on the narrative that Anita was capable of anything to protect her empire. The trial became a media spectacle. Reporters camped outside the courthouse, commentators dissected every word of testimony, and the public tuned in daily for updates. Anita, once celebrated for her poise and charisma, was now scrutinized for every expression, every gesture. Her silence was portrayed as arrogance, her emotion as manipulation. Even before the verdict, the court of public opinion had largely convicted her. The Dupree name, once a symbol of power and elegance, was now dragged through mud with every headline. Inside the courtroom, Anita fought desperately to maintain her composure. Her legal team argued tirelessly, insisting there was no concrete proof tying her to Barbara's death. But the circumstantial evidence, amplified by the weight of rumor, seemed insurmountable. Witnesses were called whose testimony painted Anita as jealous, controlling, and ruthless. Every flaw in her character, every moment of conflict from her past, was dredged up and magnified to fit the prosecution's narrative. When the guilty verdict finally came down, the shock reverberated through Fairmont Crest and beyond. Anita, once untouchable, was sentenced to prison, her fall from grace complete. The woman who had built a dynasty was now reduced to a cautionary tale, and her family was left fractured and vulnerable. Danny wept as she struggled to reconcile the woman she knew with the criminal portrayed in court. Chelsea withdrew further from public life, unable to face the constant questions. Vernon, devastated, retreated into silence. The Dupree empire, carefully constructed over decades, collapsed in the span of weeks. And yet, in the shadows, Leslie smiled. She had achieved exactly what she wanted, Anita's power stripped away, her reputation destroyed, and the path cleared for Leslie to step into the spotlight. With wealth at her disposal and Anita removed from the board, she became the new force within Fairmont Crest, welcomed by those who had once excluded her. But beneath her triumph lay the chilling truth that it was all built on deception, rumor, and the destruction of another woman's life. The story of Leslie and Anita is not merely about wealth or power, but about how fragile reputations can be and how quickly influence can turn. Anita's downfall serves as a reminder that in a world where perception can outweigh fact, no one is safe from ruin. And Leslie's rise illustrates that ambition, when fueled by vengeance, can dismantle even the most formidable empires. This explosive turn in Beyond the Gates has left viewers stunned, and the ripple effects are far from over. With Anita behind bars, the Dupree family in disarray, and Leslie seizing control, the stage is set for even darker confrontations ahead. What new secrets will come to light? Who will challenge Leslie's dominance? And can Anita ever find redemption from the shadows of her cell? Thank you for watching and staying with us through this in-depth recap. The drama is only just beginning, and we will continue to bring you every shocking development as it unfolds. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next chapter of Beyond the Gates.